Dr. Crystal here. Does your eye doctor talk to you about nutrition? Maybe they should. Stay tuned to learn why with our special guest, Dr. Julie Poteet.
You're listening to Live Foreverish, a show dedicated to helping you live just a little longer. Here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Crystal Gossard.
All right, Dr. Mike, we're talking eye health, but now we have an expert on.
Yeah, nutritional eye health. Listen, you guys are the nutritionists. You guys are the experts here. But I got to tell you, I love the idea that you and I are talking more and more about targeted nutrition, specific body parts. We've been doing that lately, haven't we?
We have, and we've talked about eye health on our live show. Cataracts and macular degeneration. And so it's nice to have a doctor of optometry on, and I can go ahead and introduce her. We welcome to our show Dr. Julie Poteet. She's a doctor of optometry and certified nutrition specialist. She's an industry key opinion leader in nutrition and ocular health. She has a master's of science in human nutrition and functional medicine. She's one of the first ODs to become a certified nutrition specialist. She's a frequent lecturer and author on nutrition and ocular health. She serves as immediate past president of the Ocular Wellness and Nutrition Society, serves on the board for certification of nutrition specialists, the Macular Degeneration Association, Women in Optometry, and of course, the Ocular Wellness and Nutrition Society. Dr. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Crystal. I'm really excited to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, so, Dr. Mike, I don't think I even shared this with you, Dr. Mike. Julie and I, we serve on the board together, the board for certification of nutrition specialists, which is, a part of the American Nutrition Association. And Dr. Julie and I were recently at the Institute for Functional Medicine conference. Dr. Julie spoke. She was one of the speakers on the personalized nutrition track. And I attended her talk. And after I was already, Dr. Julie, I had you in mind already. But after that talk, I said, okay, we need you on our podcast to share some of the information that you shared during your talk, Dr. Mike. It was, I think it was impactful just because you're hearing it from a doctor of optometry. Usually we're the ones talking. It's kind of like right. You're a medical doctor talking about nutrition. And so it's nice as a nutritionist to hear different specialties and different doctors and various practices embrace nutrition.
For sure. Yeah. 100%.
So, Dr. Julie, you shared during your talk how you became involved in nutrition, and it's a beautiful story that gives hope to so many people. Can you just give us? You don't have to give us everything, but just kind of share with us how you became involved with nutrition and functional medicine.
One of the first things that, sparked my interest, in nutrition and lifestyle and aging. I did an ocular disease residency with the VA medical system in Boston. And, this was over 20 years ago. And I became fascinated with why some of my veterans seemed to age so incredibly well. And then some just really struggled. These were, young men in their 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds that were in peak physical health, who just seemed to age over time so differently. So that piqued my interest. But what really got me involved in nutrition and functional medicine was a personal story. A lot of the practitioners and colleagues of mine in functional medicine and nutrition have come to be involved in this arena because of similar personal stories where mainstream medicine just did not afford all the answers needed. One of my children who is brilliant and just graduated top of his class from one of the top colleges in the country was developed when he was ill. I was told by the pediatric neurologist, best case scenario, simple math, worst was that he probably won't live independently one day. This is a child who had chronic GI inflammation, chronic gut issues as an infant. In fact, his pediatric GI specialist at Harvard at the time told me, he said, and this was over 20 years ago, he said, Julie, there is something to this gut-brain connection. The research isn't here yet. I can't explain it, but my kids with chronic gut inflammation often go on to develop neurodevelopmental disorders, and that is what happened to him. I was so incredibly blessed to find Dr. Sid Baker and the Institute for Functional Medicine, who put us on the trajectory, the right course to heal his gut, heal his brain, remove the bad, replace it with the good. And he is no longer suffering from a neurodevelopmental disorder. He overcame it through a lot of hard work, a lot of innovators. At the time when we started all our interventions with my son, the gut-brain connection was not something that was accepted. And now we have good evidence that there's, the gut-brain connection and the gut-retina connection. So that's what sparked my passion for nutrition and functional medicine, and why I went back to school and, attained more knowledge in this area, because my goal is to just kind of help others. I think we are all here to help each other.
So that's a fascinating story, Dr. Julie. But, I've been to several ODs throughout my life, and I've never been asked about nutrition by any of them. So I'm glad you're here. So let's start that conversation, and let's just get an overview of what you think about nutrition and ocular health.
Sure. So as a profession, anybody caring for eyesight, it is our standard of care to prescribe nutraceuticals for certain stages of macular degeneration. Macular degeneration is the leading cause of irreversible vision loss over 50 in the developed world. And we as eye care practitioners, because of the National Institutes of Health, the National Eye Institutes, age-related eye disease studies, which were randomized controlled trials that looked at a combination of vitamins and minerals to slow the progression of macular degeneration. Because of their trials, our standard of care now is to prescribe nutraceuticals. In my opinion, I think every single person on the front lines of caring for patients eyes should be talking about nutrition, because we know there is really strong evidence that diet, lifestyle mitigates the risk and the progression of all of our chronic ocular disease.
So, you sort of answered the question that was going through my head when you mentioned, it's the standard of care. And I'm wondering, maybe you can elaborate more, because you mentioned decreased risk as well as treatment. And so do you find, and maybe you are not the typical, because I know you're a certified nutrition specialist as well, but generally speaking, in the standard of care, do you see this being implemented as a preventative strategy, or do you find it's more kind of after the fact? And then I would love to hear some of your experiences in practice once you implement these strategies.
That is an excellent question, Dr. Crystal. Shakespeare said the eyes are the window to the soul, but the eyes are so much more than that. They are the windows to the vascular system. Practitioners can problems spotted in the retina are often the first signs of disease lurking elsewhere in the body. The retina is the only human tissue allowing a direct, non-invasive in vivo visualization of the microvascular system. Okay. The microvascular changes, which you both know, precede clinical manifestations elsewhere in the body. They're independent predictors of high blood pressure, diabetes, coronary disease, renal disease, stroke. And again, so the eyes are the windows into systemic health. The eyes are part of the brain. They serve as early warning systems to not just vascular health, neurological health. Every systemic disease affects the eye. I am on a mission to persuade my colleagues to embrace this movement of prevention and wellness. My mentor, Dr. Stuart Richer, one of the top carotenoid researchers, he actually passed away last year, but he would often say in his lectures that we must be mindful to repair the roof before it starts raining. We need to talk to our patients about lifestyles that support the retinal tissue, that mitigate the risk. It's so much easier to prevent rather than treat once something starts. We know with macular degeneration, once we see evidence of drusen, waste products in the macula, that's a sign that this is a disease process that has been going on for a long time. So as a practitioner, every single patient I see, I talk to them about diet. I use their retinal photography as a teaching tool. I say, these are the changes I'm seeing. These are the microvascular changes. This is what they mean. And I truly believe if a patient has a why behind something, they are more apt to make those lifestyle changes. So I use it as a teaching tool. And again, as a profession, I kind of feel like we are all, as eye care practitioners, we are a bit spoiled with our imaging technology. So every single patient. And again, my goal is to get every single one of my colleagues to embrace this. In healthcare, if we are going to evoke change, we all have to work together. I work with the endocrinologist. I work with everyone. And I do want to kind of give a quick story about a patient I had the other day. I asked him, I said, he's type 2 diabetic. I said, what does your endocrinologist tell you about what to eat? And he said, Dr. Poteet, he said, if it tastes good, spit it out. Okay. And we as a profession, we as healthcare practitioners can do so much better than that. Look, we know 1 out of every 2 US adults is pre-diabetic or diabetic. 1 out of 4 teens is pre-diabetic or diabetic. We cannot sustain that. I mean, from our profession, diabetic retinopathy, one of the leading causes of visual loss. The longer someone has diabetes, the more. I was in school a long time ago. We were taught that diabetes was an adult type 2, not type 1. Type 2 was an adult onset disease. And it saddens me because now in Atlanta, one of the top children's hospitals has opened a type 2 diabetes clinic for kids. And
Wow.
we as a society cannot sustain this. So we practitioners, all of us, need to maintain a contiguous message that, hey, we're putting ourselves, in harm's way here. We can do better. So
I just have to assume that I'm going to give that diabetic doctor, the benefit of the doubt, Dr. Julie. He had to just be talking about the sweets, cut those out. What a horrible way to present that. I love roasted asparagus. I'm having that tonight. When I eat it, should I spit it out? I mean, that's just horrible advice. I mean,
no, I couldn't believe it. But it's
crazy. Yeah. So when we think about eye disease, the big 3 that most of our audience members are concerned about, it's cataracts, it's glaucoma, it's macular degeneration. So let's focus there for a moment. Let's start with cataracts. When you see that or see the beginnings of that, what are your 1 or 2 or 3 top dietary nutrient suggestions for that patient?
So I do want to mention something about cataracts. Every single one of us, if we live long enough, will develop cataracts. Poor diet, certain systemic disease, chronic use of corticosteroids, spending too much time in the sun. There's certain things that accelerate the age at which we'll see cataracts. UV exposure, smoking's a big risk factor. But every single one of us will develop cataracts. And we've known for a long time that diets high in fruits and vegetables are inversely associated with our risk of cataracts. So again, oxidative stress, anything we can do to mitigate oxidative stress is going to reduce the rate of cataracts and increase the age at which cataracts develop in an individual. But every single one of us will develop cataracts at some point. I do want to mention something about cataracts that recent data that has come out that has changed the way I practice. I used to wait a bit to refer patients for cataract surgery until it was visually significant enough. And based on new data coming out that cataract surgery is a modifiable risk factor for early cognitive decline, I don't wait anymore. If someone has cataracts that I can look in and see, listen, cataract surgery takes 6 minutes per eye. I have not had one patient come to me after cataract surgery and say, I wish I would have waited to have it done. The visual input to the brain from a sensory standpoint is one of the largest sensory inputs to the brain. And when we reduce that sensory input from a cloudy lens, new data has shown that can increase the risk of early cognitive impairment. We know that hearing impairment is a risk factor for cognitive decline, and we now know visual impairment from cataracts is. So I don't wait to refer.
One question though, and Dr. Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong here. In our research though, we found insurance companies aren't paying for cataracts until it's real late. Is that starting to change?
No, it as long as it's documented that cataracts are affecting quality of life. I've not had one patient I referred that the insurance company said I'm not.
Oh, that's good news to hear. Good.
No, I've not had one patient. So
that's good. And I was thinking about the hearing, so I'm glad you brought that up too. So it's really these sensory inputs going into the brain. They matter. And so when we look at kind of the fruits and vegetables, are there any targeted nutritional add-ins that you also kind of look to as it relates to cataracts?
Sure. Again, I preach all day long green leafy vegetables in our diet, antioxidants, a Mediterranean style diet. I believe with nutrition, we have to kind of try and keep it simple for our patients. So a Mediterranean diet, fatty fish twice a week, I preach to every patient about that. Super important. We know the antioxidants are super important.
So would you say regardless then, whether it's cataracts, glaucoma, macular degeneration, Mediterranean diet, get those colored antioxidants that we know are great for the eyes. It's kind of all to you. It's all kind of the same approach here is really just upping people's level of nutrition and what they're eating on a daily basis.
Absolutely. We're looking at oxidative stress. We're looking at inflammation. For the chronic ocular diseases, oxidative stress and inflammation are at the root of most things we treat, such as macular degeneration. Macular degeneration is smoldering inflammation in the retina. And that's what the National Institutes of Health age-related eye disease studies showed is that antioxidants reducing that inflammation mitigate the risk of progression of ocular disease. So yeah, it's, antioxidants.
Yep. And I know, Dr. Krista, you like the colored ones. You like the lutein, the zeaxanthin and all, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm all about the carotenoids. I take lutein, I take zeaxanthin, mesozeaxanthin, of course, all of the colorful fruit and vegetables. I remind people that those carotenoids, we typically think about the orange colors, the yellow colors, but
saffron.
Even
Saffron
a bell pepper is green.
Saffron. Remember, saffron has good studies now, right?
Yes. But Dr. Julie, something that just stands out to me that I'm kind of looking at this from a different perspective, and I just want to highlight it, and maybe you can elaborate as well. But we often kind of look at specific nutrients like those carotenoids, but I love this more holistic approach where you're looking at these chronic, these things that are associated with aging, chronic disease as a holistically, the oxidative stress, the chronic inflammation, and even looking at how the chronic disease states like the diabetes, how those impact your eyes. And so you can kind of take that as a starting point and just say, okay, what's going to help to target inflammation? And you can start looking at the, the omega-3s. You can start, of course, with oxidative stress, looking at the antioxidants in that way. And so is that kind of your approach with your patients is, let's look at the diet, but then let's also look at how can we, if you're chronically inflamed, we have to get inflammation down.
Right. So I believe it's a top-down approach. Dr. Crystal,
Yeah.
you and I know that, nutrients act on multiple pathways and there's nutrient synergism. So it's the overall quality of the diet. Having said that, I am obsessed with carotenoid science. I have a colleague, a PhD at the University of Georgia, who has run the Carotenoid Research Lab, who did an interesting study looking at lutein and zeaxanthin supplementation and cognition in the elderly. And this was a study that used functional MRIs as well as cognitive testing to assess whether supplementing with lutein and zeaxanthin improved cognition. During the study, she also said, you know what, let's just look at these healthy University of Georgia college students as kind of a control group and see what does supplementation do to them. These are already kids at the top of their game. And so her results, she found, were a bit surprising. Not only did lutein and zeaxanthin supplementation, which we know helps brain and macula, but not only did supplementation with these improved cognitive scores and functional MRI studies in the elderly, but they saw a huge boost in these healthy young college students. And so again, lutein and zeaxanthin, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, our standard American diet, we only get between 1 to 2 milligrams of lutein a day. We need 20. We need 20 milligrams. So that is a supplement that I recommend to almost all of my patients, especially those with a family history of macular degeneration. It is so important. I actually have the ability to, in my office, to measure the levels of lutein and zeaxanthin in the macula of every patient. It's a quick 2-minute test. If someone is low, I start supplementing them with it. I am a firm believer in the power of lutein and zeaxanthin, not just for the back of the eye and for the retina. There is an excellent randomized control trial that was just published in April of 2024 in Frontiers in Ophthalmology that showed a combination of lutein, zeaxanthin, micronized curcumin, and D3 reduces inflammation on the front surface of the eye too. So it affects dry eyes. Front surface inflammation of the eye, and dry eyes an inflammatory disease. Front surface of the inflammation of the eye was normalized by day 56.
Wow.
In these research participants, we don't even see this with steroids. So not only, again, and I'm super excited about this new nutraceutical from Bausch & Lomb that's come out that addresses the ocular surface inflammation. But the beauty of this is it also affects the retina and supports retinal tissue and brain tissue. And again, all of us here know that's the beauty of nutraceuticals. We're not just acting locally on one system, we're affecting the whole body. So
yes, fantastic. I do want to transition to talking about the Ocular Wellness and Nutrition Society. As you were talking, I was thinking, man, it would be, how can you find someone with this type of knowledge on how to incorporate nutrition strategies in their eye care practice? And so tell us about the Ocular Wellness and Nutrition Society, what kind of work you're doing with them, what kind of work does the society do?
the Ocular Wellness and Nutrition Society is a professional society like the Glaucoma Society, the Retina Society, but it is the professional society for PhDs, ODs, OMDs with an interest in ocular health. I have been blessed to be a member, to be a board member. I was my mentor, Dr. Stuart Richards, vice president for 6 years, president for 3. And I was really excited to turn over the presidency to our wonderful new president, Dr. Netta Joya. Dr. Joya and I work alongside a lot with the American Nutrition Association to kind of form a cohesive bond to get the message out that, eye care practitioners, every single one of us, in my opinion, it is our responsibility to talk about nutrition with every single patient. There is a doctor locator on the Ocular Wellness and Nutrition Society's website, but we serve as a bridge between what science says and how to implement that clinically. And we all know nutrition science, it is so much, there's so much erroneous data out. And we are an independent resource that just looks at what the science says and how can we translate that into clinical care to best serve our patients.
Fantastic. You're listening to Live Foreverish with Dr. Julie Poteet, a doctor of optometry as well as a certified nutrition specialist. Dr. Julie, I would like for you to share with our listeners, kind of as a summary, your top 3 nutrition or wellness suggestions. Kind of, if you can just give us high level overview to support, maintain, prevent, treat. I know that's a lot. Ocular health. What would those things be?
So when I was a little girl, my mom was very fond of the KISS principle. She would always say, keep it simple, stupid. And I guess looking back, she probably shouldn't have said stupid, but I believe in the KISS principle for healthy eating, for eye health. And I like to keep things simple. So again, lutein zeaxanthin, mesozeaxanthin, green leafies. I tell patients, eat the rainbow, concentrate green leafy vegetables. That's the first principle. The second one is fatty fish. We have to incorporate fatty fish two times a week in our diet. I tell patients 3. If I tell them 3, I figure I may get 2 out of it. We think about fish and we think about mercury. And so I tell patients smash salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring because those are lower mercury fish. And I just want to kind of step aside for a second. We as a profession, I've long prescribed omega-3 fatty acids to my patients. For 20 years, I've been talking about omega-3 supplements, and I truly believe in the right type and amount, the right brand of omega-3 supplements. But what I've found that my patients will do is they'll often go to the store and buy the cheapest thing. And I don't recommend nutraceuticals. I prescribe them. But they often don't buy the one I prescribe. And I have a colleague at George Washington University whose research lab did a year-long study on 72 over-the-counter fish oil supplements. 68% of the flavored were found to be rancid, and 13% of the unflavored. And that's why it is so important for practitioners to recommend great companies like yours, who we know the products are vetted and evidence-based. So that's why there's so much controversy on fish oil supplements, but the data on fatty fish, it is consistent across the board. The fish itself is so incredibly important for cardiovascular disease, neurological disease, ocular disease. So fatty fish, the fish itself. So first thing, eat the rainbow. Much of your plate should be colorful fruits and vegetables. 2, fatty fish smashed. And 3, olive oil and nuts should be mainstays. And that's pretty much it. That's my easy recipe for healthy eye health. Eye health. So
I love it. Keep it simple, silly.
Okay.
That's good.
Is that a better way of saying it?
My mom is the sweetest person I've ever known, but she would always say, keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, silly. That's better.
I love that. And then it's all very doable. And who doesn't like a good salmon?
I'm having salmon tonight.
Some good anchovies.
Yes, love it.
I
Love it.
Go ahead.
Dr. Julie, where can our listening audience find you, learn more about you? Is there a place we can send them?
So I don't have my own website, but the Ocular Wellness and Nutrition Society is a great resource for ocular health and wellness. I also am an author and clinical editor on a journal, Presbyopia and the Aging Eye. And if you Google presbyopia and the aging eye, there's a lot of nutrition articles I've written. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Julie Poteet. I am posting a lot about nutrition and eye wellness. And I do want to give a quote really fast. This is one of my favorite quotes. this is a Mark Twain quote. So it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. I have so much gratitude for Life Extension and other companies and researchers that are really pouring money into research that we as clinicians can use. There is so much erroneous data out there. And to know we have good sources to go to makes my life easier. So
yeah. Now that you brought Mark Twain up, I'm sorry, Dr. Crystal, before you wrap this up, I got to give my favorite quote of him. You ready?
Okay.
I've had so many problems in my life. Thank God most of them never happened.
Exactly. That's good.
That's another good one.
Oh,
these are nuggets for living forever-ish, because that's what this podcast is all about. How to incorporate lifestyle strategies, holistic wellness, personalized information to live longer, healthier lives, to age gracefully. And so thank you for being a part of this episode and helping to spread more of this good information.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Again, you're listening to Live Foreverish. If you like this episode, we have tons more. We post a new episode every Monday, and then we have a summary every Wednesday. So you can find those episodes at liveforeverish.com. If you're listening and you would like to see Dr. Mike's beautiful, handsome face, you can go to our YouTube page. It's YouTube, the Life Extension Wellness YouTube channel, and you can see the video version of our podcast. And wherever you listen or watch our podcast, remember to, hey, give us a review. Tell us how you like it. Give us topics that you would like for us to cover, and subscribe to our channel or to our show so that you will never miss an episode. And by the way, just to say, oh yes, he's getting started. Podcast. Our sponsor, Life Extension, would like to say thank you to our listeners with a special 10% off offer. If you head over to lifeextension.com, take a look around, find something, add it to your order when you check out. If it's $50 or more, type in the code podcast to receive 10% off your order, plus free shipping and handling. Just in case you didn't hear it, that was podcast as the offer. Again, I'm Dr. Crystal, and that is Dr. Mike. Thanks for listening.